Fellow travelers, my name is Allan Combs. I'm at the California Institute of Integral Studies. This is my daytime job. I'm actually in Ecuador right now, where I presently live. I want to talk a little bit about connecting to the divine, and I'll say a few things about it. From my perspective, there are several ways people do this: through nature, inspiration, natural mysticism, through prayer and contemplative prayer, of course, through meditation, which is very close to contemplative prayer. The two are very similar or overlap. Selfless love elevates one considerably, and there are various kinds of dance that carry one. The Sufis use dancing, for example, as an ecstatic kind of activity. Many primary cultures, that is indigenous cultures, use dance as a major kind of divine activity. What is the divine? What do we mean by the divine? Or what do I mean by the divine? I think of the divine as consciousness itself, the very essence of consciousness. And it's very hard to talk about consciousness in any concrete terms because, of course, it's not concrete. But we use metaphors like light, energy, and love. Energy such as Shakti, for example, in some traditions. Light is a very universal kind of way of talking about consciousness. In some sense, we live in light, we bathe in light. Light for us is like water for a fish in the sea. In some sense, consciousness as light permeates everything. We are surrounded by it, filled by it, illuminated by it. And somehow we are often, I think for most of our lives, unaware of it until we wake up. So there's this metaphor of waking up and opening our eyes to the light of reality around us, which is consciousness itself, which has been there all the time. And that's one of the amazing discoveries of longtime practitioners and mystics is, oh, it's been there all the time. In fact, some of the great spiritual teachers have kind of wondered why they're trying to teach people how to discover consciousness in the spirit when they're bathed in it all the time. So it's a paradox. We're constantly in this ever-present, already there awareness of the divine, of consciousness. Some of the ways people enter the experience of the divine: nature, already mentioned, nature mysticism, through art, not as often, but there are some types of art that carry one to very high levels of spiritual experience. If you've ever seen Michelangelo's Ph.D. In Rome, Mary carrying the body of Christ, carved by Michelangelo, it will move you. It's a very powerful piece. Somehow he has turned marble into flesh there. There are other works of art that are elevating and moving, some for some of us, some for others. For me, music has been a very major path to experiencing higher, more elevated, and more even cosmic states of consciousness. There are many kinds of music that induce many types of emotion and experience and states of consciousness, of course, and people are different in their own preferences. I grew up in a family where I heard a lot of classical music, and so for me, listening to some kinds of classical music elevate my spirit enormously. Of course, almost anyone that listens to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, especially the Ode to Joy, can hardly not be captured by the brilliance and the luminescence of that piece of music. There are many others. For me, Renaissance music, ancient airs and dances, Andean flute music, most ancient Western music, but that's my tradition. And I listen to these types of music and I'm elevated by them. One of the things I've noticed over the years, actually since childhood, is that when I listen to a beautiful piece of music, especially if it's instrumental music, it carries me into another realm. Not that wonderful songs don't carry you other places as well, but there's this sense with your eyes closed and being a kind of phenomenological ocean in which you're floating in the clouds of this luminous music. And I think it's a real spiritual experience, and it elevates us out of the physical realm, possibly into a quite real realm that we don't spend all that much time in. I've also noticed over time that when I'm listening to beautiful music, it affects obviously affects our emotions, but it also affects my thoughts. Just thinking about people and problems, I have better thoughts, kinder thoughts, more generous thoughts, and solutions to problems that are more morally uplifting and more loving. So that's a short trip through my thinking about the divine. I'll just end with the Dalai Lama's wonderful statement about no matter what you do and who you do it with, be kind. So kindness is a major theme. So thank you very much for bearing with me, and I will end the program now. Bye-bye.